can sit on the knees, we can sit with the legs out in front, just however is comfortable. And again, we're just going to take a few moments to arrive, as always. So again, just finding that posture, that asana, that seat. And again, we can have the hands wherever it's comfortable. So we can have the hands on the knees, on the thighs. We can have the hands in the lap, the kind of right hand sitting in the left, or left hand sitting in the right, whichever you find is most comfortable. Or again, you can make a mudra. So again, mudra is just that gesture. So again, you can have first finger and thumb touching, palms kind of pressed down towards the thighs or the knees. Or again, hands can be up. And again, we just start to center ourselves, taking ourselves a little bit more inward. So again, just close the eyes. Again, just starting with the body. So again, do we need to kind of roll shoulder blades back and down a little, lift up through the sternum. Back of the neck is long, chin is slightly tucked in, eyes are lightly closed. And again, we can just slowly start to just sit with that breath. So again, we just become aware of that inhalation and the exhalation, just the breath coming into the body, leaving the body. And then again, we can start to breathe into that yogic breath or the free part breath. So again, we can start to breathe into the belly or the diaphragm, up into the chest, up into the collarbones. So again, we're filling the whole of the lungs. And then again, we can breathe out of the diaphragm, out of the chest, and out of the collarbones. And then we can just come into our Ujjayi breath today. So again, this is where we just make that slightly kind of vocal breath as we breathe in and out through the nose, but we slightly close the glottis up. So we kind of make that heart sound at the back of the throat, or that kind of whirling of air at the back of the throat. And again, we can just kind of allow that breath to flow kind of naturally. You can add a tala, you can add the count if you want to, so you can maybe do 6 and 8 or 6 and 10, so in for 6, out for 8 or 10, whichever's most comfortable. But again, just kind of focusing on that breath. Just that. And that's what Ujjayi breath does. Ujjayi means victorious. So again, it just really shifts our awareness to the breath with that slightly vocal breath. And again, in Ujjayi breath, if we're comfortable, we can take our tongue and place it behind the top teeth. And then that final part of Ujjayi breath is where we talk about breathing from heart to throat, and then throat to heart. So again, that big, victorious, open chested breath. And then we just spend a couple of moments, we just sit in this space and just allow the breath to return back to its normal rhythm. And then again, we can bring our hands together if we want to, gently rubbing those hands together. We can bring the hands up to the eyes, just gently blinking into that warmth and darkness of the hands. Maybe bringing the fingertips onto the eyelids, gently massaging out the eyelids, onto the temples, and down the side to the jaw, to the chin. And then we're just going to begin here with a little bit of neck work. I'm doing lots of neck work at the moment. I think it's because I'm spending so much time at a computer. So again, we're just going to relax those shoulders. We can keep the eyes closed if that feels okay. And then again, we're just going to do some of those little kind of neck rolls. So again, just gently allowing that head to become nice and heavy. And then again, we can take that head in the opposite direction. And then again, we can bring that head back to centre. Again, this time we make those circles, but drawing the circle with the chin. And then again in the opposite direction. And then again, we can bring our head back to centre. And again, we're just going to slowly bring those hands behind the back now. And again, just clasp them behind the back and just lift them up a little. So again, we just stretch through the front of the chest a little here. And then again, we can bring our hands towards the outside of our right hip. We roll the right shoulder blade back and down, squeeze the palms together, squeeze the right elbow in towards the left. We again drop our right ear towards the right shoulders. Again, we stretch through that left side of the neck. Again, we can drop our chin in a little. And then again, we can drop the chin back. And then again, we can come back to center. We can bring those arms towards the outside of that left hip this time. Again, squeezing the palms together, rolling the left shoulder blade back and down, squeezing the left elbow in towards the right. Dropping our right ear towards the right shoulder. So again, we stretch through that, dropping, sorry, left ear towards left shoulder, stretch through the right side. And then again, we can tuck chin in a little. And then again, we can drop that chin back. And then again, we can come back to center. And again, we can just release those arms. Just give those arms a bit of a shrug and a bit of a shake out. So now we're going to come down onto our backs. And this is where we're going to use our block. So we're going to come down here and we're going to spend a few moments just chilling out. And then we're going to do a little bit of work with our block. So again, just coming down onto your back, coming into any comfortable position, just to relax here for a few breaths. So again, we can have feet on the floor, we can have legs stretched out, we can have knees bent, we can have arms relaxed out to the side. And again, we're just working a little bit through that kind of heart center and the upper body today. So again, just shifting that awareness to kind of the arms, the back of the shoulders or the shoulder blades, back of the sternum, the lower back of the belly. And just kind of be aware of that kind of, those areas, just kind of pressing down into the floor. And then we just go into here. Again, we can either have legs stretched out or feet on the floor, whichever feels best. But we're going to, again, grab our, we're going to grab our block here, or our book, or whatever we've got to hand. And we're going to have it on its taller side to begin with. And we're just going to have both hands either side of that block. And we just kind of allow the back of the shoulder blades here just to really press down into the floor. Again, allow the lower back to anchor down towards the floor. So we're going to do those little shoulder stretches here. So again, we work with the breath. So again, we inhale. As we exhale, we try and keep our ribs tucked in. As we take that block up over the head and towards the floor, or to touch the floor above the head. And then we can bring it back up in front. And again, just a few more rounds. So again, as we take the block up over the head, we try and keep our ribs tucked in, our belly soft. So again, we're trying to isolate that movement, not lift up through the whole shoulder girdle, but just isolate that movement to the shoulders, or the shoulder joint. And then the next time we take that block up and over and onto the floor above the head, we're just going to relax here for a couple of moments. So we might tilt the block so we kind of have it on its taller side, so we can gently just support the block. Again, we soften the elbows or bend the elbows as much as we need. We again allow the kind of the upper ribs to sink in. We lengthen through the back of the neck. So again, we might need to tuck chin in a little here. And then again, we just allow the belly to soften. And then again, we can bring that block back up in front. We can now turn that block so it's on its kind of wider side on the book. And then again, the same thing here, just allowing the shoulder blades to sink into the floor, back the sternum sinks into the floor, the back of the heart center. Then we inhale, we exhale, keeping the ribs tucked in as we bring the block up over the head. And again, just a couple more rounds. And then again, when we've done our next round, we can just bring that block up over the head. We can again just allow the block just to kind of press down into the floor if that feels okay. We can again soften the elbows, allow the shoulder blades to sink into the floor, tuck the chin in, allow the belly to relax. And then again, we can just gently just either leave the block down on the floor, and we're just going to bring our arms out to shoulder level now. So we're going to move into a couple of little twists. So again, we're going to start with the kind of the feet together and the kind of feet and knees together, knees bent. We can have those arms nice and relaxed out at shoulder level. We're just going to start with that little kind of window wipering of the legs. So again, as we gently take the legs from side to side, we're going to bring our head into that movement. As we gently take the head from side to side. And again, the head might go in the same direction as the legs, might go in the opposite direction. And then again, just really intuitively, so again, just the next time you just flop over to one side, whichever side you choose, you're just going to soften there for a couple of breaths. Again, we just allow the knees to relax down towards the floor. We allow the head to relax. We again allow the back of the hands, back of the shoulders, sternum, heart center, just to sink down into the floor. And then again, we can bring those legs back up to center. We can again start with that little side to side of the legs. We can again bring that head into the movement. Again, the next time we drop those legs over towards that opposite side, we again just soften here for a few breaths. Again, just allow the legs to relax, allow the arms to relax, back the hands, back the shoulders, heart center just sinks down into the floor. And then again, we can come back up to center. And then we're just going to bring our feet now into that kind of hip position. So feet and knees roughly about hip distance. We can again keep arms out to the side, or again we can come into cactus arms. So again, where we bend the elbows a little bit and just kind of might feel that stretch a little bit more through the front of the chest, the front of the upper arms. And then again, we can start with that little window wide print of the legs. Again, that movement of the head. And then again, the next time we drop those legs over towards that up, again, just to whichever side you choose, we just take a few moments here. Again, allow those arms to become nice and heavy. Allow the allow the legs to become nice and heavy. Allow the back of the palms, the elbows, back of the shoulders to press down into the floor. And then again, we can bring those legs back to center. We can again do that little side to side. And then again, the next time we drop those legs over to that left side. Sorry, I'll let you choose it. I'm going over towards the opposite side. We again just relax here. And then again, we can come back to center. And then that final last little one now we're going to do a little bit more strengthening. We're going to do those kind of rolling twists. So again, this is that one where we're just going to bring the arms up. So again, we're kind of holding that beach ball. And again, we just bring our knees up onto our chest. Got the back of the shoulders, the back of the hips pressing into the floor. We start that little side to side movement here with the legs, so kind of making that half circle or that smile shape as we kind of bring our Knees up towards one armpit and then towards the opposite side. Again, our arms slightly counterbalance, our arms might just go a little bit towards the opposite side. But again, keeping the back of the shoulders, back of the heart center, connected to the floor. Again, we might even start to lift the lower legs a little bit more when we come towards one side. Again, we'll probably need to counterbalance a little bit more so we don't rock over. And then again, we can slowly come back in. We can just hug those knees in again for a couple of moments. Rock out the lower back. We can again bring our hands onto the knees. Just gently circle those knees going in one direction. And then again in the opposite direction. And then again, just bringing those knees back in. And then that last couple of ones we're going to do here, we're just going to stretch the arms up. We're going to stretch the legs up. We're going to have the back of the shoulders pressed into the floor, back of the hips pressed into the floor. Come into that dead bug pose. And again, we can just hang out here with the breath. Or again, we can move a little bit here with the breath. So again, we can inhale. Exhale, taking the arms a little bit over the head, legs a little bit way, coming back to center. And again, a couple more. Again, we don't need to take the arms and the legs very far. We can keep the knees as bent as much as we need them to. And then again, we can slowly bring those knees back into the chest. Again, hugging those knees in. Again, slightly circling the knees again a little bit. This time taking those knees away from each other. So again, bigger circles into the hips. Bringing the knees in towards each other. And then again, we can go in the opposite direction. And then again, we can slowly come back to center. We can cross our ankles. We can inhale and exhale, rocking up. So we're going to spin over on to our fronts. We're going to chuck in a little bit more shoulder work here. So again, you can use your block if you want to in that child stretch to increase the shoulder stretch. If your shoulder's particularly tight, you might not need to. So again, you can have knees together, knees out to the side. You can have arms stretched out in front. You can have arms stretched out and kind of wrists just resting on the block. So your hands are kind of over the block and your kind of head is slightly lower than your shoulders when you bring your forehead onto the floor. I really need to go for a wee, sorry guys. So just hang out there for a couple of breaths. And then again, we can just stretch those arms out in front. And now slowly come up onto all fours. So we're going to do a little bit of work here in kind of different shoulder kind of and wrist work. So again, we just want to make sure you're nice and kind of comfortable. So again, if you want to put a blanket or anything underneath your knees. So to begin with, we're going to come into that little shoulder stretch. So again, this is that one where we bring our forearms onto the floor. But again, we have our forearms kind of facing up towards the seat, or our palms facing up. And our elbows are kind of roughly stacked underneath our shoulders here. So again, and we can have kind of bum over or hips over knees, or your bum might be a little bit further back or a little bit further forward, whatever feels comfortable. So again, to begin with, we're just trying to kind of bring the back of the wrist towards the floor. And then stretching the hands out, we're trying to bring our little fingernail towards the floor. Stretching the hands out even further, we're trying to bring our thumbnail also to the floor. And then we drop the head. I'll have to keep my lifted to talk, but just dropping your head in. So again, you lengthen through the back of the neck. And then slightly press up between the shoulder blades and pull back a little bit. So again, you're really stretching kind of between the shoulder blades and the back of the neck here. And then again, we can release. And then now we can turn our palms or our forearms to face towards the floor. And then again, we come into that little puppy pose, which is where we just kind of take our forearms towards the outside edges of the mat. We drop our forehead onto the floor here between our forearms. We again allow that chest to sink down towards the floor. So again, we get that real kind of opening kind of across the front of the chest. And then again, we can maybe just stay here, or we can slightly take our arms a little bit further forward. And then again, we can just slowly slide back into any little child pose here for a couple of breaths, just to again allow the arms to relax. So again, we can have a couple of fists, forehead on block, arms down by the sides, or arms stretched out in front, whatever feels good. And then again, we can come back up onto all fours. So the next ones here, we're going to work a little bit into our wrists and our shoulders. So we're just going to again get stacked in any kind of flat back position. And then again, all we're going to do here is we're just going to kind of play around a little bit. So again, how does it feel to kind of turn, and actually we'll go the other way to begin with. So how does it feel to kind of turn your hands to face towards the outsides of the mat? And then can we turn them a little bit further? Again, very good stretch for the forearms, very good carpal tunnel work as well here. And then can you even turn them a little bit further? So you might, again, just depending on your kind of, not flexibility, but it's kind of just how your wrists are built. And also if you are slightly hyper flexible, hyper mobile, often shows up in the wrists, especially in women, wrists and elbows. You see it a lot in yoga. People kind of hyperextend through their joints. And then again, we can slowly come back. And then again, how does it feel to come the other way? So if we slightly turn our hands to face in towards each other. I actually really like this for the shoulders. I find it feels really nice for my shoulders, this position. And then again, can we turn our hands a little bit further? And then again, we can come back. Just give those wrists a little bit of a shake out. So a little bit of wrist work here. And then the final couple of ones we're going to do before we come into as child to rest again is a little bit of work here into the fingers. I'm not sure how far I can get where you can still see my hands. So again, some of you have done this with me in class before. So again, how does it feel to kind of palm or kind of roll up? So if you kind of keep your fingers pressed into the floor, can you kind of bring kind of the heel of your palm off the floor? And then can you kind of bring the rest of your palms off the floor? So you're just kind of pressing now through the kind of the knuckles. And then can you come up? So now it's just kind of the tops of the fingers pressing into the floor. And then can you come right up onto your fingertips? And then again, can you go back? So again, taking your fingers to press down, kind of the knuckles, half of the palms. And then finally the heel of the hands. And then again, one more round. So again, can we kind of slowly start to almost kind of peel those hands up. So we eventually come right up onto the fingers. And then again, we can go back down. And then we're just going to relax here for a couple of breaths. So again, we can come back to any little child. We can have arms out in front, hands down by feet, forehead on the block, forehead on fists. And then again, can we bring those arms back out in front and slowly come back up onto all fours. So now we're going to come into our normal cat-cow spine rolls. So again, hands just stacked underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips, back is in that flat position or that neutral position. Again, always we start with that slinky spine. We start with the tailbone. So again, we tuck tailbone up, drop pelvis or kind of slightly tilt pelvis, belly, chest, upper chest, head. And then again, as we exhale, opposite direction, tuck toes under if you want to start moving with the feet, tuck tailbone down, suck belly in, arch back, drop head. And again, a couple more rounds, just working with the breath. And then again, when we've done 3 rounds, we can come back into that flat back position. And then again, we can just slowly come back into any little child, just for a couple of breaths. And then again, we can stretch arms out in front. Slowly come up here onto all fours, hands under shoulders, knees under hips. Now we're going to get ready for our little downward facing dog. So again, we're going to tuck our toes under, press up between our shoulder blades as we press into our palms. Shift the bum towards the heels, take the tailbone up towards the ceiling. Come into our little downward facing dog, taking a few moments to stretch out here in your dog pose. And then again, whenever you're ready, we can just slowly walk hands to feet, feet to hands. We can come into that little forward flop here. And again, we can just ragdoll. And then again, we're just going to slowly roll up and come up into standing. So we're just going to do a couple of little forward folds here. Again, so playing around a little bit with the upper body, but also into the legs. So we're just going to come into a kind of comfortable Tadasana position to begin with. So again, just maybe kind of having feet stepped underneath hips, feet might be a little bit, again, whatever feels comfortable for your gait. This is really just depending on how your legs are built, how your pelvis and your hips are shaped. So again, just finding a position that feels good for you. And again, just relaxing your arms down so you feel really solid and grounded into this position. And then again, just inhaling, that kind of inhalation lifts the arms. We can clasp the hands together. We can exhale, roll the shoulder blades back and down. And then again, we can inhale here. Exhale, take those arms over towards one side. Inhale back to center. Exhale to the opposite side. Inhale, coming back to center. Exhale, taking your arms wide out to the side. Clasp the hands together, squeeze the shoulder blades in as we inhale. And again, exhale, folding forwards. And then again, we can drop our hands down here. We can bring hands onto the floor, hands onto the block. We can just ragdoll here for a couple of breaths. Bob up and down, rock from side to side, whatever feels good here to stretch out those legs a little. And then we're just going to, again, take it a little bit into a neck stretch here. So we're going to clasp our hands together. And we're just going to bring our hands onto the back of the head. And then just kind of wrapping your elbows or your forearms kind of around your ears. So it's like you're trying to bring your kind of elbows in towards each other. And then just adding that little bit of weight here into the stretch as you really kind of pull down with the arms. So again, you really stretch through the back of the neck. And then again, we can drop those arms. We can roll up. So again, arms are really heavy. As we roll up into standing. And then we're going to do a little bit more of that. So now we're just going to take our feet a little bit wider. And again, there's slightly different side stretch here. So again, we just bring our arms down onto the side of the thighs. We take our left arm up to begin with. We inhale, we exhale, bring that left arm up and over. We slide right hand down towards right knee. And then again, we can come back to center. We can swap sides. Again, we can bring that right arm up, sorry, as we inhale. Exhale, right arm up and over, left hand down. And then again back to center. And then again, this time we're just going to bring both arms up. We're going to slightly bring our hands into prayer position. We're just going to take our gaze up. So we just look up at our thumbs. So it almost starts to create a little back bend here. And then again, we can slowly draw those hands down the midline. Dropping the hands again to wherever, so onto the floor, onto a block. Again, taking a few moments here just to flop, bob up and down, rock from side to side, have a little sway, however feels good to stretch out here. And then again, we're just going to clasp the hands. This time we're going to bring our hands to the back of the neck. We're going to bring our forearms in to meet each other. So it's almost kind of like we've got our kind of arms kind of tracing the side of the jaw here. And then again, the same thing. We allow that head to hang. We allow the arms to become nice and heavy. And then again, we can drop those arms down. We can either again roll up vertebrae by vertebrae, or again we can press into the heels, lifting those arms up as we come back into Tadasana. And then having a little shake out here of the legs. So we're going to come into a couple of standing poses now, and then we're going to come back down onto the floor. So again, that kind of exploration of the upper body. You might want your block for these. So just coming towards the front of the mat and just having your block to hand. And again, we're just going to come into a Tadasana position. So we're just going to kind of have feet wherever makes us feel the most grounded. Thumbs in towards the sternum, elbows out to the side. We shift the weight towards our right foot. And we're just going to step back for warrior one. So we're going to step our left foot back. Again, warrior one is that slightly shorter stance. So again, back foot is roughly about 45 degrees. Back foot, front foot are slightly out of sync. So your hips are just squared a little bit off center. So what you do in warrior one is you slightly square your hips forwards. And again, there's that little bit of rotation and pull here in your back thigh, and also maybe your back heel slides a little. And again, we press down into the feet. We inhale here, bringing the arms up. So we can either bring them to their shoulder distance, we can have them clasped together. I always do the sword of Dugra. We did this once in class. So again, Dugra is one of the goddesses. It's she is, I think she's Parvati, Dugra, and Kali. So Lakshmi and Kali, Dugra. So again, we just kind of gently bring our fingers together. So we have our first finger pointing up. Again, we roll the shoulder blades back and down. We lift up through the chest. We inhale. We exhale, bend the front knee, and we press our back heel towards the floor. So again, in Warrior One, we get that real nice kind of openness here through the chest. Starts to create that little bit of a back bend. And then again, we can slowly straighten up. We can release those arms out to the side, but again, now we're going to clasp the hands behind the back, lift the arms up as we inhale. And then again, exhale, bend the front knee, press the back heel towards the floor. And again, take the gaze either forwards or even up towards the ceiling. So again, we get that real openness here through the front of the chest. And then again, we can straighten the front leg, release the arms. And then that final one, you can either grab onto your elbows. If you're very bendy wristed, you can do behind the back prayer pose. You can bring hands onto your hips if that makes you feel more balanced. We inhale here, and then we exhale, slowly folding forwards. Taking our gaze towards our big toe. So we come into that pyramid pose. So kind of hips and kind of belly are kind of squared down towards the floor. We drop the head in. And then again, we can just release our arms now here. So again, we might bring our fingertips onto the floor. We might prefer to bring our hands onto a block, stay with that kind of more flat back position. You might soften or bend your front knee a little bit. You might just find that, which we've been playing around with a lot in classes of late, that letting go of the upper body. So just by allowing the upper body to become nice and heavy, that in itself just slightly changes the stretch. And then again, we can bring our fingertips either onto the floor or our hands onto the block. Shift the weight into our front foot and just step that left foot back and through. Come back into our little forward flop or forward fold. And then again, we can roll up, we can hinge up, we can press into the heels, engage the glutes. Sorry, as we slowly come back into standing. And then we can do all that on the opposite side. So again, we can come back into Tadasana. We can bring hands into prayer position. We can again shift our weight into our feet, getting grounded, pressing into our left foot. We can step right foot back. So again, back heel, front foot slightly out of sync, or back foot, front foot slightly out of sync, back foot about 45 degrees. Hips slightly squared off and forward. So again, we square them forward, back heel might slide a little bit. We relax the arms down. We inhale, bringing those arms up. Again, we can bring them shoulder distance. We can clasp hands together. We can do the sword of Dugra. Again, we roll the shoulder blades back and down, lifting up through the chest as we inhale. Exhale, we bend the front knee. We just find that real openness through the front of the body. And then again, we can straighten. We can bring those arms out to the sides. We can now clasp behind the back, lift the arms up, inhale. Exhale, bend the front knee, press the back heel towards the floor. Take the gaze forwards or even up. And then again, we can just release. And then finally, grabbing onto the elbows, behind the back prayer pose. Again, if you're grabbing elbows, changing the grab. Inhaling here. Exhaling, slowly folding forward. Taking our gaze towards our big toe. And then again, dropping hands down, either bringing the fingertips onto the floor, palms onto the floor, hands onto the blocks, soften or bend in the front knee as much as you need to. Again, just either hanging out here, or again, you can take that inhalation as you exhale. Just allow the upper body to become nice and heavy, and that in itself just changes that stretch. And then again, we can cup fingertips onto the floor or onto the block. Shift the weight towards our front foot. Step that right foot through. Come back into our forward flop, forward fold. And then again, we can roll up, hinge up, take the arms wide out to the side. Lift up. And come back into Tadasana. So now we're going to come down onto our mats. But again, okay, I'm going to do it the traditional way. So again, finding your own way down onto the mat, but trying not to use your hands if possible. So most of you guys are all tired of this now. You're like, so easy. So very good, guys. And then we're just going to, I'll just check the time. What time are we on? Okay. So we're just going to finish off by spinning round onto our backs. And this is where we're going to do a little bit of working bridge. So again, if you do want to use your block or your bolster, just having them to hand. So again, just coming down into any comfortable bridge position here. So again, back of the neck is long, shoulders are rolled down, feet are stacked underneath knees, feet and knees are about hip distance. Again, as always, we start with that movement with the pelvis. So again, we can keep shoulder blades and bum connected to the floor. We just find that little pelvic tilt. So again, as we inhale, we lift up a little bit through the belly. So a little bit of space under the lower back. And again, as we exhale, the belly presses into the floor. And then again, just like this little wave of the pelvis, we're going to continue this. So the next time we press into the feet, up through the thighs, up through the pelvis, up through the belly, the chest. And then again, we exhale, rolling down through the back. So again, through the back of the shoulder, back of the ribs, back of the belly. And then bum comes down onto the floor. Again, we're going to do a couple more rounds. Again, we can inhale, lifting up, or rolling up through the front. And again, as we exhale, rolling down through the back of the body. And then again, after our next round, we're now going to bring it a little bit more into those shoulders. So again, this time we're going to inhale, coming up. We're going to take those arms up over the head. Bring the arms onto the floor above the head. And then again, as we exhale, we leave those arms on the floor as we above the head as we roll down. And again, once that bum's hit the floor, we can bring the arms back down. Again, a couple more rounds. And then again, when we've done 3 rounds of them, we bring those arms back down onto the floor. We press into the hands and the feet this time as we lift up into our bridge. We grab our block, our bolster, our hardback book and a cushion, whatever we've got to hand. Just bring it underneath kind of the back of the hip crest, the back of the back of the hips. Again, if you've got a bolster, it's probably more underneath the lower back and the top of the bum. And then again, we just take it that little bit here into the upper body. So again, we just bring those arms up over the head. And just really kind of allow the back of the shoulders, the back of the head, the back of the sternum to press into the floor. We just allow that upper body just to become nice and heavy. It's just by that letting go of the upper body, allowing the upper body to be supported by the floor. Just get that sense of kind of opening through the kind of the upper ribs and chest. And then again, we can stay here. Or again, if you like to, you can also stretch those legs out a little further. So you come into that really long bridge. And then again, we can slowly bring those feet back in. You can bring those arms back down by the sides. You can press into the hands and the feet. Again, as we lift up into our bridge position. And then again, we can slowly roll down vertebra by vertebra. And again, we can come on to our backs. We can take a couple of moments here. We can hug the knees in, rock out that lower back for a couple of moments. And maybe circling those knees in the opposite direction or squeezing the knees in towards the belly. And then we're just going to get ready now to come into our little Shavasana. So again, if you want to get any warm clothes on, any socks, blankets, jackets, cushions. Turn any lights off, nice and cozy. Let's see. And then again, just getting comfortable here in our little Shavasana position. So again, we can have arms nice and relaxed out to the sides. We can have back of the neck long, chin slightly tucked in, eyes lightly closed. And again, we just take those few moments just to allow the body to relax. Let the weight of the body just sink down into the floor. And again, as we exhale, we just relax down into those parts that touch the floor. So again, back of the head, back of the shoulders, kind of glutes, calves, heels. And then again, we can just slowly start to bring that breath into the body. So again, we can just breathe from the top of the head, right down into the fingers, the toes. Just focusing into any little areas of tension, tightness, discomfort in the body. Again, as we breathe out, just allow those areas to relax, release, and soften a little. And then again, we can just breathe from the top of the head right down into the fingers, the toes. And again, as we exhale, just allowing the weight of the body to sink down into the floor. Just letting everything relax, release, and soften. And then we can just slowly now start to just bring our awareness just to that breath and the movement of the body with the breath. So again, as we inhale, there's that widening, opening, lengthening of the body. And again, as we exhale, that kind of softening, relaxing, releasing of the body. And then again, we can start to breathe into that Varun and Adi. So again, as we breathe from the skin to the heart, and we breathe from heart to skin. And again, we breathe throughout the whole of the body, through the skin, through the pores, down into that center of ourselves. And then again, we can breathe out from the heart, through the skin, to our energetic body, or yoga sheets, or koshas as they're called, where the physical body stops, but the energetic body continues. And again, we just sit here with the breath as we breathe from kind of the external through the skin into the center of ourselves. And then we breathe from the heart to the skin, beyond the physical body. we can just allow that breath to return back to its normal rhythm. We can start to breathe a little deeper, start to bring that little bit of gentle movement, fingers, toes, head from side to side. Again, when we're ready to bring a little bit more movement into the body, we can gently stretch out however feels comfortable. And then again, we can bring our hands together. We can gently rub those hands together to create a little bit of heat. We can gently palm our eyes, blinking into that warmth and darkness of the hands. Bringing the fingertips onto the eyelids, gently massaging out the eyelids onto the temples. And down the sides of the jaw to the chin. And then just hugging our knees up into our chest, rocking out the lower back. And slowly rolling to the side. And gently finding our way up into seated to finish. So again, because we've been kind of doing lots of kind of upper body stuff, heart center stuff, you can either bring hands into prayer position, or again, you can do that Garuda Mudra, where hands are kind of resting on the heart center, so kind of really breathe into the warmth of the hands. And you can either just take that couple of moments just to sit here, just breathe into the heart center, or again, if you want to have that moment of gratitude, that thanks, that counting your blessing, whatever blessings, whatever you call it, or whatever resonates with you. And then to finish, we're just, To finish, we're just going to get our fingers and we're just going to kind of tap our heart center or tap our sternum. And then again, you can make a fist and you can kind of start to tap around the chest. You can kind of tap down or kind of round one of your arms. Your arms are your heart lines in Chinese medicine. Heart lines run through the heart down into the arms. And then again, we can go on to the opposite side. So again, we can tap and then kind of use our kind of fist. And again, gently tapping around the shoulders, down the arm. And all that heart line energy. And then again, give them a bit of a shake out.